Good morning again. This is again day one, and now you're in a different pose out on the beach. And I'm going to read you. I'm going to read you here for this video two of the readings that we did. One is from David Whyte in his Consolations book, which I also encourage you to get. Consolations: the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words. I have read every page of this, many of them multiple times, some as many as 10 or 20 times, because I think David has captured something about the spiritual meaning of words and how they source us for a spiritual journey. And this one is the work that we're going to be doing today, as you'll find out by the time you listen to this. You will have already known what the day holds. We're going to work with regret. And the reason that we're going to work with regret, in my own personal journey this last year or two, it has been one of the most informative elements of my life that has informed a vision for the future. And you'll hear some of that in the way David Whyte talks about the importance of regret and an honest regret and what it can give you in terms of a way forward for your life. We're going to do that through some process work. Hopefully I'll have a video also pacing the work of regret. Maybe I'll do that later today. So these are the two readings, and so that you can have them in case you don't have access to the books until you get those, which I hope you will. This is from David Whyte. Regret is a short, evocative, and achingly beautiful word, an elegy to lost possibilities, even in its brief enunciation. It is also a rarity and almost never heard except when the speaker insists that they have none, that they are brave and forward-looking and could not possibly imagine their life in any other way than the way it is. To admit regret is to understand our fallibility. I'll talk about this week in terms of our limits, to understand our limits and propensities. To admit regret is to understand our fallibility, that there are powers in the world beyond us. To admit regret is to lose control not only of a difficult past, but of the very story we tell about our present. And yet, strangely, to admit sincere and abiding regret is one of our greatest but unspoken contemporary sins. We just don't do it in any sincere way. The rarity of honest regret may be due to our contemporary emphasis on the youthful perspective. It may be that a true useful regret is not a possibility or province of youth. Let me read that again. It may be that a true useful regret is not a possibility or province of youth, that it takes a hard-won maturity to experience the depths of regret in ways that do not overwhelm or debilitate us, but put us into the proper, more generous relationship with the future. Except for brief senses of having missed a tide, having hurt another, having taken what is not ours, youth is not ready for the rich current of abiding regret that runs through and emboldens a mature human life. Sincere regret may in fact be a faculty for paying attention to the future. I'm going to read that again. It's such a beautiful phrase. Sincere regret may in fact be a faculty, a capacity that we develop. Sincere regret may in fact be a faculty for paying attention to the future, for sensing a new tide where we missed a previous one, for experiencing timelessness with a grandchild where we neglected a boy of our own. To regret fully is to appreciate how high the stakes are in even the most average human life. Read that in the last sentence. To regret fully is to appreciate how high the stakes are in even the average human life. Fully experienced, regret turns our eyes, attentive and alert, to a future possibly lived better than our own past. And certainly, as we'll talk about throughout the course of the day and do the work this evening, there are things that we each hold on to that, if unspoken by the heart, because the heart is where regret is not a reactive state. Guilt is where the mind takes the regret and makes us wrong about it. Regret and our own holding of it in the heart is to have the humility to understand our limits, our propensities, and live in the midst of life, in the midst of those limits. So that's what we'll be talking about today. This next reading is from Mark Nepo's "The One Life We're Given," and it's on regret. And I read it. I probably have read it 20 times in the last year since I got this book, and I want to read it to you today. Everything that slows us down and forces patience, everything that sets us back into the slow cycles of nature, is a help. It's a saying by May Sarton. We all struggle with regret and making amends. It can be hard to climb out of the canyon of lament on how our lives have unfolded and to discern what can and can't be done as we move forward. This is interesting. The word regret comes from the old French word regretteur, one who bewails the dead. And this goes farther back to the German root meaning to greet. We always face the two phases of regret: to bewail what is dead and gone, and if we can move through the grief, to greet the chance to do things differently as we move on. I regret the years my father and I wasted while we were estranged. I regret having fallen backwards on my dog's right paw when she was 5, which broke a bone in the tendon. I can still hear her yelp. I regret the 1,500 copies of my second book and my epic poem, Fire Without Witness, were destroyed without my knowledge. I can hear the characters trying to run off the pages as they burned. I've learned that regret is like striking a large bell in an empty field and then running through the wild grass trying to gather the sound of the strike back into the bell. It, of course, is impossible. All that's possible is to strike the bell again, to have a new sound layer itself over the old. The grip of the first phase of regret is that the pain of grief can make us think if we only did this or that, our pain or loss might be somewhat lessened. In our grief, we can become fixated on wanting to undo what can't be undone. When the precious urge born of grief in time is the want to do something new, differently. I've also found that making amends can help loosen the weight of the past. Making amends means that I finally remade my bond with my father when he was 90, and that I loved my dog even more, that I told her I was sorry as I rubbed her lame foot and kissed her head, that I was patient with her slow arthritic gait when she was older because I had contributed to it. And making peace with the burning of my books means that I had to move beyond the injustice to the deeper conversation I was being asked to have with impermanence. When tangled in regret, we can fall into a storm of urgency, as if our future depends on whether we can unravel some knot in our past. And the grip of regret keeps us from the immediacy of life around us. All the while, we continue to suffer through our fears that we're not good enough, that that we'll never find love, that we won't be able to face our suffering or endure the loss of those we love. All the while, our heart only needs to open air and the life force waiting in the next moment to revive itself. Think of the pipes that bring water to your home. When segments of the pipe are aligned, the water flows freely. If any part of the pipe is askew, the flow is interrupted. Likewise, when our thought, heart, speech, and actions are aligned, the resources of the universe flow through us easily. This alignment, which some call integrity and others call authenticity, is necessary to access the resources of everything larger than us. When feeling bereft and out of touch, check your pipes. The storms of pain and grief and the ice that comes hiding will knock us out of alignment. Inner alignment is the unending practice of staying in clear, flowing relationship with the whole. Still, on any given day, the attempt to undo what can't be undone and our preoccupation with the knots of our past can plague us with a dark thirst that cannot be quenched. Such a beautiful sentence. I'll read it again. On any given day, the attempt to undo what cannot be undone and our preoccupation with the knots of our past can plague us with a dark thirst that cannot be quenched. When packed to the brim with memories, wounds, worries, dreams, opinions, and schemes, we become limited in what we can hear or receive. With no room in our cup for being, less and less can touch us. So if you have trouble hearing or taking things in, give of yourself, anywhere and everywhere. Sometimes the only remedy is to empty ourselves and begin again. This is the work of love. To give, to empty, to make room for life. Why? So we can listen to all that is abundant, to all that is needed, to all that is not us. Our small fate is to be a constant carrier of abundance to whatever we find. Our small fate is to be a constant carrier of abundance to wherever we find need. The more we are emptied of our personal echoes, the more we can be present to what is alive before us. When I regret something now, I try to let the sound of my heart play itself out like the strike of the bell in the field. I try to be with the emptiness I'm left with, until my pain over the friendship that failed miserably 20 years ago makes me want to be a better friend to the person I just met. Until the cup I broke that my wife Susan made, that couldn't be put back together, has me hold everything I pick up as if it were a baby bird. Until the love I've spilled throughout my life has me pour what's in my heart slowly on whatever I meet and that needs watering. Read that last sentence, so beautiful. until the love I've spilled throughout my life has me pour what's in my heart slowly on whatever I need that needs watering. And so the work that we will do today, as you already well know about regret, is finding a way to have that language that strike the bell. And the way the heart speaks of regret is not what there's something wrong with you or you did some awful thing. The way the heart speaks is to just tell the truth. I wish that I had or had not. I wish in many ways, although I am the beneficiary of sitting with thousands of people all around the world, I also wish in my younger years as a trainer that I had not missed so much of my boys' lives. 2 years of life in the 10 or 12 years early on that I was away from home training. I don't regret what I've learned. I don't regret the skills, but I wish I had been there. I wish I'd been there when Ryan scored a touchdown in his flag football, his first one. And many concerts that David had that I wish I'd been there. I wish I'd been at when Adam was in all-state, all northwest part of the country choir and singing. And I wish I'd been there when he was in Carnegie Hall singing as a young man, 10 years of age. And also to, as you'll see in our work today, we'll be asking for help and guidance. The heart has a plea inside. Please help me stay steady. Please help me stay on course with what really matters to me. Please help me love my children more. It's part of why we're moving across the country. The work of the regret has informed what I want to have in the latter part of my life, which is more time with my children and perhaps if it's in the cards, grandchildren, but especially my boys and with Diane. I regret being away from her for out of the last 25 years of our marriage, 5 years, almost 6 now of time. And so we're moving to a place that people can come and Diane and I can be together while I'm together with others. She'll be attending most of the retreats in the next several years, wherever I go away from home, so that we can be together. All of that was informed by the work that we're doing on regret. And finally, one of the steps that we'll put in, as you already know, I want to say something about is a step that, well, there's also a step of forgiveness, to ask forgiveness if it wants to be asked for, or offer ourselves a sense of forgiveness, or I've used the word mercy. Forgiveness is an act that's given, or a stand that's taken for some particular perpetration that's been done. Mercy is given because we're human. We say, have mercy on my soul, is the phrase in the Bible. It's not that you need to believe in Christianity, but that phrase, may God have mercy on my soul, is may God have mercy on my humanity, by my humanness. And so there's that. And then finally, one of the steps that I put in that seems counterintuitive to what we've learned about the words never is the step that says, I will never, ever again. And so one of the phrases that I have put in is, I will never, ever again raise my voice to Diane in anger or upset. I will never, ever again raise my voice to my boys in anger or upset. And in fact, I will never, ever raise my voice to my friends in anger or upset. Never, ever, ever will I do that. And what happens if you think of the sand that you're out in and now you're laying on your backs and doing breath work at the end of the movement? I hope the sun has warmed your hearts, even as the cool breeze blows over your feet, your toes. But that phrase, I will never ever, is like if you take a line in the sand and you say, I won't cross this. This is the line that I won't cross. That's one thing. But if you have an island out there that you say, actually, I will never ever go all the way over there, you begin to say there's a chasm between my propensities and what I will do, and I will create that distance from that activity. I will never ever do it. Then when it begins to say it's right here, you can bark out at Diane, or you can bark out at the boys, or you can bark out at your friends, perfectly justified to do so. You go, actually, that's a long swim over that island for me to justify that action. And so that phrase creates a wedge between you and your propensities. And I can tell you, I have raised my voice to Diane since I said that a couple of times in the last 5 or 10 years. And it's bizarre to do it, and it has no resonance for me in the way I want to be. And as I've taken that stand over and over and over again, I will never ever do that. When I can feel that upset rising, what's happened for me is that I stay on this side of the line, or my analogy, this side of the ocean between me and that propensity that I've sort of, it's like putting it out on an island prison where it can rest, that action, that propensity. Of course, we don't know that we can never ever do it, but our stand is not, it's not strong enough that I'll do my best. It's just, it won't really create a wedge. I'll do my best, or I'll try my best, or I choose to be one way or the other. There's something about, I will never, ever, ever do that that begins to create real change and allows us to live in heart and live in love. So I hope this has been worthwhile for you to listen to, and we'll see what the day holds. Looks like Carrie's getting up. Oh, she's doing that essential oil thing. Isn't that marvelous? So just take a sniff and you can imagine you're lying there on the beach again with Carrie coming to cup her hands up under your nose and give you the essence of love to smell today. My love to you, dear ones, and take care.